My name is Sarah. I am 30 years old. I live in a small apartment with my husband, Mark. We have been married for 2 years. Our home is quiet and simple. There are plants near the window. There are pictures on the wall. It looks peaceful from the outside. But my heart does not feel peaceful. I met Mark 3 years ago. He was kind, funny, and very smart. I liked his calm voice. I liked the way he talked about life. He said he believed in honesty. He said he wanted a family. I thought he was ready to start a new chapter. I thought I was that new chapter. After 1 year, we got married. I was happy. I wore a white dress. I smiled in every photo. He smiled too, but now when I look at the pictures, I see something different in his eyes. His smile was not full. Something was missing. I started noticing little things. At night, he sometimes looked far away. He would sit quietly, holding his phone, staring at it for a long time. I asked if everything was okay. He always said yes. But his eyes told a different story. One day, I saw a picture on his phone. It was a photo of another woman. She was smiling. She looked happy. She looked beautiful. I asked him who she was. He said her name was Emily. He said she was someone from his past. I stayed quiet. But that night, I could not sleep. I turned left and right in bed. I thought about her. I thought about him. I wondered how much space she still had in his heart. Days passed. I started watching him more. He would sometimes say her name in his sleep. He never smiled at me the way he smiled when he talked about her. When I asked more questions, he became quiet. He didn't want to talk about her. But silence speaks. And in that silence, I heard the truth. He still loved her. Maybe he always did. I cried in the bathroom. I cried in the kitchen. I cried in the car when I was alone. I tried to act strong, but my heart was breaking. I tried to cook his favorite meals. I tried to laugh more. I wore my best clothes. I tried to become everything he needed. But I cannot become her. I am not Emily. I am Sarah. One evening, I found an old letter in his drawer. It was from her. She wrote about how much she missed him. She said he would always be in her heart. The date on the letter was from 2 months ago. That hurt the most. I asked him if he still talked to her. He didn't answer. He just looked down. And that silence was louder than words. I feel like a guest in my own marriage. I feel like I am standing in a shadow. A shadow of a woman I never met. A woman who still lives in his heart. Some days, I want to leave. I imagine packing my things and walking away. I imagine starting a new life, far from this pain. But then I remember our vows. I remember the hope I had. So I stay. I try. I smile even when it hurts. I wait for his heart to come back. But I don't know if it ever will. Now, every morning, I look in the mirror. I tell myself, you are enough. I don't always believe it. But I say it anyway. I take walks alone. I write in my journal. I sit by the window and watch the sky. I talk to myself like a friend. I say, it's okay to feel this. It's okay to be sad. I still love him. But I also need to love myself. That is the part one forgot. Maybe one day he will choose me fully. Maybe one day he will let her go. Or maybe one day, I will walk away to find someone who looks at me like I am the only one in the room. But for now, I live in this space between hope and heartbreak. I keep breathing. I keep trying. I keep being Sarah. Because I am not a shadow. I am not a second choice. I am not a replacement. I am a whole person, full of love, waiting to be seen. And that, maybe, is where my real story begins. Weeks turned into months. I tried to hold our marriage together like broken glass in my hands. Every day, I woke up hoping things would change. I thought maybe one day he would look at me like he used to. But that look never came. I stopped talking to my friends. I didn't want them to know. I didn't want their pity. I didn't want to hear the words, "You deserve better." Even though I knew they were true. I started going to a small cafe by myself every weekend. It became my escape. I would sit near the window with a cup of tea. I would watch couples walk by, laughing and holding hands. I wondered if any of them were hiding sadness too. One rainy afternoon, an old woman sat beside me in the cafe. She said she came there every Saturday. We talked for a while. I didn't tell her much, but she said something I will never forget. She said, "Sometimes, people stay with us only in body. Their heart is still somewhere else." I nodded slowly. That was my life. Mark was there. But not really. At home, I tried to talk to him again. I told him how I felt. I told him I needed his love. I needed his presence. He said he was sorry. He said he didn't mean to hurt me. But his eyes still looked distant. He was not ready to let go of his past. One night, I dreamed about Emily. I had never met her, but in my dream, she looked just like I imagined. She walked into our house and looked around like she belonged. I stood in the corner, silent, watching them talk and laugh. When I woke up, my pillow was wet from tears. I knew I couldn't live like this forever. I needed more. I needed peace. I started saving money. I opened a secret account. I didn't know if I would use it, but it made me feel stronger. I read books about healing. I started writing again. I wrote letters to myself. I wrote about the girl I used to be, the one full of dreams. The one who believed in love. I remembered how I used to laugh. I remembered how I used to dance when no one was watching. I remembered that I used to feel alive. One evening, as the sun was setting, I looked at Mark and asked, "Do you still love her?" He didn't answer. He didn't need to. And that was the moment I let go. Not of him, but of the hope that kept me stuck. I let go of the dream that he would change. That night, I slept deeply for the first time in months. The next morning, I smiled at myself in the mirror. A real smile. I didn't know what would happen next. But I knew I had taken the first step back to myself. And maybe that is the bravest kind of love, the love we give ourselves when no one else will. My name is Sarah. And I am learning how to live again.